Welcome to DIYEasyCrafts.com. Today we're going to be building a fishing pole with a kit from lurepartsonline.com. Now this particular pole is a gift from my granddaughter, an advanced Christmas gift. It's a baitcaster, 7-foot baitcaster. I put my own spin on it. I did my signature ocean wave design, and I'm just going to do a walkthrough on every step of the process of putting together one of these kits. Now the kit was really cool. It came with all of the parts and they were all labeled. But the most important part was it came with a blueprint. So it gave all the measurements of where everything went, all of the guides with the measurements down from the tip. Very easy. It took all of the guesswork out of ordering, the components. So I started by working on the grips, and you just ream them out with a tapered reamer, very carefully, making sure that you don't ream too far. You want to make these a snug fit. I marked all of the locations based off of that little blueprint, and then I'm just going to ream out each of the components until it comes, to within a couple of inches so that where I can press it into place. And then these are all, glued in place and then pressed in place. Now I've done individual videos on every step of the fishing rod building process. So if you want more detail on any particular aspect of this build, I'm going to put links to all of those different how-to videos in the description. This is just installing or gluing on the butt cap. Of course, you clean up any of the epoxy resin with a paper towel first, and then with some rubbing alcohol. This is the reel seat, sliding that into place. I'll clean up all that excess resin just with a stirrer, wood stirrer, and then I'll wipe it down with that rubbing alcohol. So assembling all of the the handle components, very easy. I protected the grips of the reel seat with a little painter's tape, but there's not any rocket science here. It's a pretty easy project. This is the winding check. The winding check is almost like a finishing washer. It just creates a nice finish or a nice transition from that foregrip down to the rod. Now I'm going to start to wind all of the guides. I've marked their location. I know where the spine on the rod is. I've held them into position just with a little bit of masking tape while I get the thread going. And I'm just using a handheld, hand winding system from CRB. And again, there's a whole video that shows you exactly how to do this, setting the tension. That second loop of thread that I put through is going to allow me to tie off or finish off the end of the thread. So I wind like 4 or 5 times after I put that loop through. Then I cut the existing thread under tension, put it through that loop, and then I pull the loop through so that the end of the thread actually gets pulled through the existing layers of threading. That's what kind of holds everything in place. I trim that off with a nice sharp razor blade, and then I continue down the pole towards the tip, winding all of those guides in their proper location. The tip top is just a little bit different. You end up putting a little tip top glue on the rod itself. You put some slivers of tip top glue inside the tip top, heat it up with a flame. I just used a barbecue lighter. Position it, push it all the way on, and then just position it or orient it so it's in line with the other guides. Then I put this into a rod drying rack, also from CRB. And this just slowly turns the rod. And I'm going to coat all of the threads with an epoxy called Pro Coat. You want to completely saturate the threads. You don't want globs of epoxy on there, but you want to completely cover all of the threads. Now after that dries, and this is strictly cosmetic here. This is just a little, artistic crafting here. I coated the butt end or the base of the rod with some very dark blue resin, or resin mixed with dark blue dye, and then I added some lighter blue to the end, and also, in some spots. I just want a variety of different shades of blue to act as the water. And then at the end of that, I'm going to put some clear resin and a little bit of white resin. I use what's called a straw technique. I don't use a straw. I use the outer casing of a Bic pen. And then I just blow the white resin right into and over the clear. It kind of flows through that clear, or on top of the clear. And it creates some really interesting and realistic, wave action. You can almost see it, the waves crashing onto the shore. Then I let that dry completely overnight before adding my label or my decal. Now the decal is also going to get covered with that same Pro Coat, which is a clear resin. Back in the drying machine. That drying machine prevents that epoxy from accumulating and dripping, just by constantly turning. And then you don't have to do this, but I actually coat the entire wave with that same clear Pro Coat. It just really gives it a nice shiny effect. I'm going to go over it with a heat gun very, very quickly. The heat gun just thins out that resin a little bit and gets out of any little bubbles. It gives you a nice clear finish after it's dried. So this was really a fairly easy project using a rod building kit. All of the pieces came labeled with that diagram, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this YouTube channel. By all means, check us out on the web at DIYEasyCrafts.com. I've got a bunch of different do-it-yourself nautical and fishing related how-to projects. Thank you very much for watching.